Live your most amazing life with Mike Murphy on the Creation Frequency. Infinite possibilities, fostering peace and joy with an unfiltered heart. Powerful people, powerful listeners. Now, here's Mike Murphy.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Frequency Show, and I'm your host, Mike Murphy. And wow, these are crazy times we got going on right now. I happen to be coming to you again this week from Medellin, Colombia. And it's a little rainy, so the internet gets a little slower down here in South America when it rains for some reason. So if I cut out, it won't just be for a slight pause. But I'm super excited to open the show today. Before we get into the creation frequency, we have some great guests, and we're going to really explore how we can live the life of our dreams using the concept from the creation frequency and the manifestation that we teach in that book. But before that, we have an extra special guest that I wanted to have on this week with everything going on in America right now. The one and only Jim Willie from golden-jackass.com. And Jim stays abreast of all these things happening. I love his personality. I love his intelligence. And I love the way he shares and talks about these things. So with no further ado, Jim, welcome, my friend.
Well, good to be back. I got to tell you, I have two very big, important, conflicting emotions at work. One is anxiety, and the other is confidence. I don't know if other people share that with me. I think they tend to be one or the other, but I've got both at work, and it's very bothersome. It's not good for the stomach. It's not good for the sleeping patterns. But the more information I gather, the calmer I feel. And we are going through a catharsis. And let me just, while I was preparing for this, I was just walking around my apartment, grabbing some water, washing my hands. And I thought, this election was a referendum on the voting process. And it will bring about the blockchain for voting.
Thank God.
We have now demonstrated very capably that after 20 years of narco presidents, we cannot manage an election, period.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a fair election in the other states, where where the governor or there's a dominance from the other party. There is absolutely no professionalism, honesty, or integrity. It is now to the point, and I think I know why, and I'll get to this. It's now to the point where anything goes. It's politics, it's war. It's war. You want to lie, it's war. You want to cheat, it's war. It's war. You want to get a 120-year-old person to vote for Biden? Do it. It's war. Okay, this is really, really messed up and beyond fix. Beyond any remote fix. But we need to talk about some of the fraud. I've actually made a list of all the types of fraud. I mean, when it started out, it was two or three things that were kind of popular items, and we knew about that, a few years ago. And now it's just getting ridiculous. I just remembered one, and so I had to write it down. I noticed that in 2004, we started to see the vote fraud. I mean, we started to see really important vote fraud. We saw the Diebold machines. We saw the controversy in 20 or 30. I remember once it was several spots in Arizona where people complained at the moment. That's not what I just voted for 2 minutes ago. It changed my vote. Okay. And then we had the law that said you could not challenge the voting machine software. Excuse me? That's like saying, people are robbing a store of perfume and expensive gloves, but we're not allowed to search them. Are you kidding me? I just thought, fascism 101, this is very basic, very, very, very basic. But Team Trump is on this. And I'm kind of curious of your reaction to the Steve Pachenik.
Oh, man.
Con-
He's a shill, right? I mean,
he's a
he
what?
he's a shill. I mean, he told us about the watermarks, and then it turns out it's not true. He came on the air and said there's gonna be arrest in 72 hours. I mean, you tell me your take on it, but my understanding of the interview I saw, there was watermarks already on the ballots, and that's how the DHS was going to catch these guys.
Why do you think he's a shill?
Well, because he lies. You know, he said that what I learned is the state prints those ballots, and those mail-in ballots had no watermarks. But he said within 72 hours there'd be arrest. That's what he said 4 days ago. So tell me your take on him.
I don't have any verification. All I have is the initial story, and I cannot seem to verify whether the presidential mail-in ballots are printed at the federal level or the state level. I cannot get that even settled.
There's a state. Let's move away from that because there's controversy, and I really want to deal in facts because, you know, when we muddy the waters, that's what they use to make us look like idiots, right? But the one, and I think I might have sent this to you, but if not, there is CNN footage, and it's about a minute long. They show Pennsylvania, and Trump has this, Biden has that, right? And they show Arizona, Nevada, whatever they want, and they come back to Pennsylvania. Guess what? Trump now has 19,500 ballots of votes less, and Biden has 19,500 more. So that's that Dominion software that's owned by Pelosi. Yeah. What do you know about that? Because that looks to me like the biggest source of the fraud.
I am told that the Dominion software is in almost every county in 8 battleground states.
All eight.
And I believe, this is my opinion, that based on just the early investigation, they're finding that it did vote flipping in every instance that they've examined.
Yeah.
And this could result in turning Michigan around and turning Pennsylvania around. Pennsylvania's unique, and turning Michigan around, and maybe turning
Georgia
and Arizona around. You can't leave out Arizona. And turning Nevada around. They had California voters in there. Right. I tell you, it's no holds barred in the fraud.
Yeah.
But okay, okay, we should probably leave Pachenik alone then.
I say leave him alone.
Charlie Ward backed him up.
I know, but I was studying some stuff today, and you know, there's just some controversy around that. You know, we know for a fact that dead people vote. We know for a fact that they were kicking out the Republican spotters. They wouldn't let them look. They're taping over the windows. I mean, the fraud goes on and on and on.
Let's not leave out the big bags that came in at 2 a.m. in Detroit.
They stopped the vote. It was a Trump landslide. They said timeout. 4 hours later, all this stuff arrived in cars, and that next thing play it on the media, and the media is more complicit than anybody in this fraud. And so, but let's talk about this, Jim. Let's just say that, because I think we're screwed either way. You brought up two things. I think you're confident that Trump's going to stay in office, is going to get overturned, but you're probably anxious. At least I'm anxious. Then what? Then you got holy hell in the riots and Antifa and the BLM.
Oh, I'm not really working my way toward the riots in 2 months. I'm working my way through, where do you present the fraudulent data? And I got into a very interesting discussion with a friend here, Miguel, yesterday over breakfast. He said, well, it looks like the evidence is clear. You just need to present it in court and Trump will win, right? And I said, where? And he said, in court. And I said, which court? And he said, in your court. And I said, which court?
Right.
And he said, I don't understand. I said, I know you don't understand my country, and I haven't met a Latino who does yet. I said, would it be the state Supreme Court? Would it be a court with the Federal Election Commission? Would it be the U.S. Supreme Court? Or would it be the House of Representatives and the Electoral College if they have a forum? Or would it be this new cyber infrastructure security agency that Trump set up?
And let me give you one more. If none of the media covers it, how does anybody ever know?
Well, that's a good point, but I have heard rather clear. Okay, I got to mention a certain friend. He's a colleague in my group, and he told me a month ago, we're going to have colossal fraud. This is going to be a referendum on the process. We're going to have blockchain eventually take over the whole system for voting. And you watch at the 11th hour, if Trump is ahead, they're going to stop the clock and they'll do whatever is necessary to defraud it and bring in, okay, we're going to need 100,000, bring in 100,000. And in comes a little stick drive, just like they did in Detroit. But we just don't know the process. I don't know which court. I believe the first stage is meetings with the Secretary of State in each state. I hate that phrase, but each state has a Secretary of State. They're meeting and they're going to be working on leverage, do the right thing, or, we're going to have some federal investigation, FBI, on your ass. Your career might be over, 10 years in prison, $20,000 fine. The flipping has already begun. Okay, so the first level is negotiate with the Secretary of State. The second level could be negotiating. This is happening in Pennsylvania. The Speaker of the House said they will not certify anything unless there's an audit. Okay, so when you've got a state that says, all right, we've got a winner, what happened? The legislature does a rubber stamp and says, we have a winner, and there we submit off to the Electoral College. Okay, so you got the Secretary of State who's in the line of fire. You've got basically the Speaker of the House who's a representative, the spokesman for that state legislature. Then you've got a Supreme Court in the state. Okay, those are critical because we're dealing with 50 countries here. And a little over half of them are corrupt to the core, with the blue state insignia staining their hearts and integrity in a manner that I find disgraceful and disgusting. Okay, beyond that, I believe you've got this. Okay, the highest is obviously the U.S. Supreme Court, but there are levels between. I think there's the Federal Election Commission. And I'm not sure what the NSA has for a say here, but they do have a say. And I believe it's in the negotiating and leverage, because they can say, well, we've been following you for 3 weeks, Mr. Smith out of Detroit, or Mr. Jones out of Philadelphia. And we've got a meeting with these 5 people where it looks very clear that you're dealing with conspiracy to defraud the election. And we'd like you to do the right thing so that this doesn't get ugly and doesn't provide, say, jail time for you, and you can actually save your career. Okay, that's what I think is going to be critical. Okay, apart from all the watermarks, apart from all of that, it looks like Trump is chipping away. I heard that he had a meeting on Friday with 1,000 attorneys. I mean, like an auditorium. Now, I have spoken before 1,000 people before, and I'm telling you, it's a big crowd. It was the conferences in Canada. There were 40 rows and they were 26 wide. Okay, do the math. It's a little over 1,000. And apart from the intimidation, my point is it's a lot of attorneys. And the attorneys are dispatched. You 5, you go off to Massachusetts. You 8, we want you in Georgia. I think they're focusing on the 8 battleground states because honestly, I had a checklist on election night. It was Texas, Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And I have a check next to almost every one of them before I went to sleep at 12:30 my time after midnight. And the check meant Trump won it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even close. Not even close.
Well, there were a couple of. Pennsylvania wasn't close.
Yeah.
Michigan surprised me that he overcame it. Yeah. And when you get to mail-in ballots, damn, I thought I thought this 3 months ago. I talked to a couple of different colleagues. I talked to a couple of different client friends, and I said, this mail-in's not going to work. It's going to be like 90% Biden. It's going to be full of fraud. They're going to, they're going to extend the time to count them. They're going to do what my buddy said. They'll stop the clock because they need to count. And also, it's stop the clock because we need to sleep since we have an extra day to do this.
Right, right.
Because of the mail-in. Mail-ins can never work.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got in just one city in Michigan, 10,000 dead people voting for Biden. Okay, you know, I'm a mathematician, statistician type, and what I do is I say, well, you've got the equivalent of 2 Detroits in Michigan and maybe 2 Detroits in Wisconsin and 3 in Pennsylvania. So you got about 15 there. So it looks like about 150,000 dead people voted for Biden. That's going to make a difference. That doesn't even address the falsified registry. What they're doing. Okay, here's a really tricky thing. Someone came in to vote. Let's say just Thomas Clements, and they looked it up and thought, okay, fine. Behind the scenes, let's do a mail-in ballot for him also, because Thomas Clements will never know. Okay, they're doing double votes for people who actually showed up, and the predominant vote of the walk-ins, as they call them, the in-person voting center votes, the majority was Trump. I had an estimate. I just follow a lot of different things, and I thought when people would ask me, "What do you think is going to happen with the election, Jim? What do you think is going to? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" And I said, in an honest election, Trump will win by between 40 and 50%. But never count out.
Say that again. He would win by what?
40 or 50%.
No, so but like 70-30, you mean 60-40?
If he wins by 40%, then you got 60. Okay.
So it'd be 70-30, 70-30. That's what I had it at 70-30 too.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm told it could even be bigger than that if they get the mail-in ballots with the watermarks all fixed. And I just don't know. I don't want to muddy the water here.
Yeah.
We've got, I think we've got an opportunity now for people to do their whistleblowing and to get a tap on the shoulder and be told, you got 24 hours to do the right thing. We'll get back to you tomorrow. And then you've got the various secretaries of state are critical. Okay, the one in Pennsylvania, she's got, got a double O and it looks like a Dutch name. I'd recognize it if you gave me 5 to choose from. I think she's on the hot seat. The U.S. Supreme Court has basically said segregate those votes after midnight. There's only one reason to segregate votes, and that's to shit can them. Yeah. So Trump was ahead by 600,000 in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Okay, I think that's in the bag. I'm more concerned about turning Wisconsin, Michigan, and now Georgia, because I think they played the same games. They had an interesting game in Atlanta, Georgia. They had a water main break in the city, and they used that as a reason to delay all the counting. And now I'm hearing of another factor that I'm not exactly sure about. One client, a really smart client of mine, said, Jim, what they're trying to do is drag this out to run out the clock. And I don't understand that. I mean, what do they have? 6 or 1 week to count all the ballots? So what they're doing is they're just holding back on the red counties, the red districts, and just leave those predominantly Trump votes over there. We may not ever get to them. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The corruption. This is so 18th century. I've got a programming background. I got a bachelor's in computer science. That was back there in the 70s when, before modular computing, there was a lot of programming and, machine language stuff and architecture, data structures. I loved all that stuff. But I got to tell you, the programming for voting, it is simple. It is simple. You could have an 8th grader do it in half an hour or less. There's no big logic involved. There's no if and that and bring in this and bring a result. No, it's yes, no, A, B, C, done. There is nothing simpler. Yeah. So when you have corruption in the software, it's because it's planned.
It's by design.
By
And
design.
so let me ask you this. So the problem I see now, I mean, you got Biden acting as president, you got all the media and all the other criminals, Bush, Clinton, all the other criminals embracing him, Romney. You know, well, here's what we're getting. The line is being drawn very clearly now. Who's the bad guys and who's the good guys? Okay. That's one good thing that's coming out of this. And it's funny, the laptop from hell has disappeared for time being. COVID disappeared for time being. All the bullshit has disappeared.
But not the censorship.
Well, no, it's getting worse. It's
Right.
unbelievable. The censorship is it's communist China. So let me ask you this. So the the fraud is evident. I mean, and easy to prove, I believe. But let's say Trump wins and he stays in office. Then what happens?
Then come the arrests. Then come the forced resignations. And I think he brings out the howitzers that forced Pelosi out of office. I mean, like the child trafficking, like the fraud. I think they can prove Pelosi's involved with the Dominion voting machines.
Her husband owns it, or is
I know. That's what I'm saying. So it's going to be, you've got too much embarrassment. You need to resign because we've got you on these three things. And time has come now. We're not worried about re-election in 2024. We want you gone, or we're going to have you taken to Guantanamo.
But there's no Department of Justice. There's no FBI. I mean, you talk about a swamp. I don't think anybody thought the swamp was this big.
I didn't think the swamp was this big. What I noticed in the first 8 or 9 months of the Trump administration was he had the career professionals all through his various departments, and that it really stymied almost everything he did. They were Bush 2 and Obama appointments, and they were deep state. And we're seeing the result of that. So that's why I'm looking forward to the second administration, where he can discharge a bunch of them and say, I don't care what the consequences are. This is my 4-year legacy to close out my administration. And I have a lot of optimism, and I don't think, Mike, it's badly placed. I don't think it's badly placed. I really don't. I actually believe that there's quite a lot going on with the NSA, and this watermark might have been a smoke screen. Not what's the word? A brush fire to get the rats out of the bushes.
There's another thing that I think is more credible and viable, and that is they saw this happening online because the software is on the internet. And so you can hack in and see the vote flipping. Now, there's some rumors that they were actually watching this happen in real time.
Yes.
So if that's the case, it's a slam dunk.
I've seen the data. I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
It's in Michigan, it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's in Philadelphia. And it's like you've got these, I'm not really sure the interval, but I think it's 1-minute intervals or 2-minute intervals. And that's where you saw, whoops, there's the flip. And okay, the bad thing about having it on the internet is that it can be hacked and altered.
Exactly.
The good thing about the internet is that we can watch it.
We monitor it, right.
We monitor, and you got to be alert. You got to be alert. But it's not just about being alert. The internet is a constant thing. So you can go back and say, well, let's go look at that again.
Right.
And then you bring in the prosecutors, and I'm telling you, they got feet to the fire for some of these secretaries of state. Well, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes in these blue states.
And then let's talk about the media, because I read today, I think it was Zero Hedge, that the media, CNN, Fox, they show their true colors, but anyways, they're deleting all their coverage of all this. So they want it all to go away, because there's many times where the numbers, I gave you one example of 19,500 votes. There's another one here on 600 votes here. They have all this video, and people on TikTok have recorded all this stuff, and it's comical. And when there's one clip I saw where I think it's Chris Cuomo and some other knucklehead, and they're in shock of what happened. They couldn't explain, wait, how did that just happen? So, I mean, it's so obvious. And but here's what frustrates me. And tell me, of course, I'm American. I have friends that are liberal and conservative. And these liberal people, they think I'm a nutcase for believing this possibility exists.
Well, you are in that case. You are in that case, and you're nutty because you love liberty.
Yeah, and freedom.
And you're an anomaly.
Integrity.
You're an anomaly that doesn't fit into a sea of deep. I have a friend who wrote me and said, "Here, Jim, in California, a couple nights ago, I put out a plasma TV next to the garbage can. And in the morning, someone with lipstick painted F-U-C-K Trump." And I wrote him back this morning and this afternoon and said to him, "Why don't you do some graffiti, Biden and the zombies?"
Yeah.
They're really dumb people.
Is that what it is? No, they're not dumb.
No. I think they're dumb. No, I think they're dumb. They've had a chance. No, Mike, I'm going to be very firm on this. I've got some people who I thought were smart.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
And they've had 30 years to detect that the New York Times and the media has not been telling the truth, and therefore they're dumb.
Yeah, they're highly educated.
They're educated and they're dumb. No. I've met a number of educated people who are dumb. Hey, look, I have talked with dumb Ivy League PhD economists.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But it just
I've had 2 or 3 conversations with them. One was a Harvard guy, one was a Cornell guy. They were both effing morons.
All right. Hey, listen. Thanks for opening the show tonight. We're going to take a little break, and then we're going to switch gears to the creation frequency and talk about something positive and how you can manifest the life of your dreams. But I got good news for you. We've done another hour with Jim, and we're going to air that probably in a few days. So you can find that at Mike Murphy Unfiltered YouTube or MikeMurphyUnfiltered.com. Jim, we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with 2 marvelous guests of the creation frequency.
Okay.
Thank you. So welcome back after a short little break. A little conversation with Jim Willie there. It's always interesting to talk to Jim, but now we're going to turn into something that, is the passion of my life and, what I love to talk about, and that's the creation frequency and how we can manifest the dreams that we desire and create a better life for not only us, but our family and the world and everything else. If everybody practiced this, we wouldn't have all the drama that we have in politics today. So anyways, we have 2 great guests with us today. One is coming from I believe, Connecticut. She just told me, but I believe it's Connecticut. She just moved there from Manhattan, and that is Barbara Rosati. Welcome, Barbara, to the Creation Frequency Hour. Thank you. And another fellow that I've known for 4 or 5 years now, a great guy coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee, and that's Tom O'Connor. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you, Mike.
And I'm your host, Mike Murphy, here in Medellin, Colombia. So we're all over the world tonight and coming to you live. And I want to give a shout out to my dear friend, Ken. Major surgery. I just spoke to him for the first time since his surgery like 10 days ago. And he's still very weak. So if you could send him some good positive energy prayers, he's recovering from a serious injury from cancer. And so, Kenny, I miss you, buddy. I love you. I'm flying to LA tomorrow, so I hope to see you this weekend. Okay, so we'll start with Barbara. Since we always start, beauty before age, right? So, Barbara, I know that you just told me that you read the book Creation Frequency 3 years ago. Any takeaway, anything, where were you at that point in your life? Any takeaway from the book, and where are you now?
Well, at the time, I had just moved from Seattle to New York, to Westchester, not to Manhattan. And my 17-year-old daughter was going through a really difficult time. She was in a boarding school, having a lot of anxiety, did not want to stay as a boarder, but wanted to finish her senior year at that school. So she asked me to move to Seattle for 6 months. and to so she could live with me and finish out her year. And every single day of her senior year was a struggle for her emotionally, and I didn't know how to help her. So got in touch with Rob and Brenda. They got me in touch with your book and said this might help. And so I read the book and I decided I had to write down what I wanted for her. So that was the first part. It was for her and obviously for me as a mother. So I wrote in detail that I wanted her to be able to graduate high school, that specific school on that specific day, and then have this very expansive, beautiful summer, and then go into college. And there were details, more details of that. But I
Were,
start.
were,
Go ahead.
were you you're just writing this for your benefit, to like a prayer for her life?
Yeah, and I mean, as a mother, I think that that's what we want for our
No,
kids.
I agree, but did she know what you were doing is my question.
No, no, not
Okay,
at all.
okay,
No.
okay. So you use the creation frequency, which is, I think, a great tool to use it to as a prayer, really, for your daughter to create this great life. Just keep
Yeah,
going.
and it was I I started, I had the app and I would walk my dog. I'm retired, so I have extra time, and I would walk my dog and I would listen to it, and then I would feel some anxiety myself and listen to it. She's in whatever. So there were many days she didn't even go to school because she just was not doing well, and sometimes 5 times a day just listening to it. And so what I started to realize pretty quickly is that it became my life, that, oh, of course she's graduating high school. Of course we're going to her graduation. We're doing this, that, whatever. So I listened to the app in succession of one category to the next. And that also included, of course, my health, relationships, finances, travel, everything. And so it really was more, it was a mantra. It became a mantra. And I did realize it pretty quickly. It was so easy to just know it was going to happen. And my daughter did graduate high school, and it did come down to the last day. She did graduate high school with that high school, with her class on that day. I was the happiest mother in the world on that day.
How's she
And
doing now, by the way?
she's doing well. It's been a very long, hard road for both of us. That didn't, sometimes what we want we get, and then we're on to our next thing, of course, and everything shifts and changes. So anyway, that was what was going on in my life, and she did do that, and that was a great relief. And then because of her doing that too, of her wanting me to come to New York, it completely changed my life, because I moved from Seattle. I'd been in Seattle for 25 years, and I loved it. And so it completely opened up my life too. And
So, did you write other intentions or record other intentions for your life?
yes, so all the rest of them were for mine.
And how did that work out?
My finances have been always been good, so they've continued to be good. Health has improved, and I have changed my life. I'm as healthy as one can be, I think, at my age too. So I just kept on that track. I think it kept me very focused that this is what I needed to do. And it wasn't even necessarily how I was going to do it. It was just what I wanted the picture to look like. And so I've continued on that. And relationship wise has been a very interesting journey in itself. And now I'm in an amazingly incredible connected relationship, which is a very big word for me. Connection is everything. And so it's been a journey to get here, but it's something that I have continued to. I haven't necessarily continued the mantra, but it's in there, right? It kind of it.
Right.
I think it
Well,
does settle in you.
without a doubt. Okay. So, so when first read the book, did you buy in right away? Did you believe? I mean, is this something you've experienced in your life? So it was an easy concept for you to grasp?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, I got divorced and I went through a really huge spiritual awakening because my ex-husband passed away. He got cancer 6 months after our divorce and passed away 3 years later. So my daughter lost her dad, and I was the only parent, and I knew immediately I needed to get physically, emotionally, spiritually healthy. I didn't know what that looked like.
Right.
So I was already on that path from all different angles. And at the time, when I got in touch with your book and I read your book, I was already on that path. So thinking about that everything is energy, everything is, thoughts and feelings create things, create your life. It's perspective too, right?
Yep.
So, yes.
The
Yeah.
reason is for listener here, you got to have a belief. You got to believe it's going to work. That's step number one. And so you already had that. So now we touched base a little bit email today, and the feedback was, this is great, except, so what, if the areas of your life right now, which one would you like to improve upon?
Well, I think that I have a view of what I want, and then it's like, for instance, health. I mean, I'm an incredibly healthy person and still have a couple of issues here and there. And I'm wondering, I guess my question to you really is, how do we bring in this the spiritual awakening of, or maybe not the spiritual awakening of, we there are still things that we like, past traumas, things that set in us from an early age, and I believe that we have to go back to those things. We have to unravel them. We have to be aware and heal from them. So how do we bring that, and then what we're still kind of struggling with, to create that opening to get there? So I believe that we have disease, we have, we have health issues because energetically something's knocking at the door saying you'd have something more to be aware of or to look at. So how do you bring those two things together? How are you doing the digging of the past and the intention of the creation together? Because
Yeah.
I feel like you have to heal from the trauma to open up one more door.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Can you identify your trauma that you're trying to heal from, or do you feel is it known or unknown?
Well, I would say I do it all the time. I'm unraveling it all the time.
I mean,
So
is there a specific trauma that is in your body that you can identify, where it came from?
no, not,
Okay.
yeah.
So, but are you just hallucinating, not hallucinating, but imagining that this trauma exists, or do you know it exists?
Oh, I think that that's been 10 years of unraveling. Absolutely. That there's always some type of foundation for any of those things. And once we're aware, then it creates an opening to say, okay, um, for instance, I mean, this is an example that happened to me. Is Right after I got divorced, I had a breast issue on the left. Had a mammogram. It was atypical. Blah blah blah, all that stuff. I started to work with Rob and Brenda, and we started talking about what does that mean. And for women, and probably men too, one side means that it's this extended family, and the left side means it's your children, it's your spouse or your children. So I started to work on those issues and see that there was an issue with that. There's a lot of grief involved, all of these other things. That was an issue that I healed from, and I healed from without Western medicine. So that's creating my own health. I'm on that path. I had not read your book at that point, and I didn't really understand energy as much until we started getting into it. So that's what I'm saying is, like, trying to, how do we identify the something that we're trying to heal from, and that's why it's in us. And then how do we also create the intention to move forward?
Well,
The,
so great. This is a great subject, great topic. So, are you familiar with the work of wrote a book on how you can recover from anything. Anyways, her concept is every illness is related to some unresolved emotion. And I do a lot of work with breast cancer patients, and a lot of the breast cancer people feel that it comes from some sort of unresolved anger or something like that, breast problem. But I want to talk about the whole body, and I think for you, just go inside and ask questions. Okay, what is there something here that needs to be healed emotionally, or is there a mental tape that I keep playing? And ask yourself, do that relaxation technique that I teach to get into a still place, and ask yourself, your subconscious mind knows everything. Right now, our subconscious mind is taking in a million bits of information as we're listening right here. And then it cycles through, it's a supercomputer and delivers 40 to our conscious mind. So ask yourself, mind, what is in my body that needs to be healed? Is there any emotional trauma? Is it what's going on physically? So ask those questions. And then if I were to write an intention, with you, I'd say something to the effect that I love how healthy I am. I love how I feel. I love how much energy I have. And I love that how all of my past traumas are eliminated from my body. And I love this feeling of freedom. And I love this feeling of confidence, knowing within that I am whole and I am complete, And if there's something specific in your body that you want to address, for me, I have an enlarged prostate. So my intention is, I love that how my prostate is shrinking every single day. And I love how much energy I have. And I love it as a result of that, how much better I can sleep. And so I'm telling, we're made up of 50 trillion individual living, and they feel everything we feel, they hear everything we say and think, okay? And so we need to communicate internally to our body, which is our vehicle that houses our soul, and let it know, one, we care about it, we're thinking about it, we love it, and we appreciate the great health, and we're grateful for it, because the more emotion I can attach to these intentions, the better it's going to work. So I want you to kind of think about that for a second, and maybe come up with some more questions based on what I just said. I'm going to switch over to Tom, and we'll come back to you, and then we'll clear up any questions you have, and work on intention if you want.
Okay,
so
great. Thanks.
fair enough. All right, awesome. Okay, Mr. Tom O'Connor, how are you, young man?
Terrific, Mike. Thank you for having me today.
I love this guy. I've met him through my sister, I'm guessing 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and lived vicariously through all the wonderful things he's been doing with his life since he retired from the evil banking industry, and is now free to pursue his heart. So tell me what's going on. Tell me your experience with the creation frequency so far, and tell me what we can talk about.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was a little over 3 years ago when I came to Columbia, and then I did your course shortly after that and read your book. And that was a game changer for me in the sense that I was stuck in the story, kind of a survival mode my whole life. I was the youngest of 9 kids, and we grew up without a lot of money. And so I thought if I was just hard on myself, I would work harder. And so I was kind of trapped in that mindset. And while I achieved professionally, I had material things and did well at work, my personal life suffered, and my relationships with my kids, and I had been divorced for about 10 years and was really struggling to connect with someone. And so starting to tell myself a different story, have a different vibration. I never realized kind of the negative kind of distancing vibe that I had put off to others. And so that started a journey. And I did a lot of different things. I won't go into all of them. I traveled all around the world and did a lot of different healing modalities. And I went down before I came back up. But what I really realized with relationships was that I wanted all these things in a woman that I was writing, around trust and honesty and commitment and beauty and openness and honesty and I wasn't all those things. And so I needed to spend some time becoming those things. And then it was pretty amazing. Shortly after that, I went to a conference I wasn't supposed to go to in LA, and I met a woman who wasn't supposed to be there either. And after a weekend, we were pretty convinced we were going to spend a lot more time together. And so that's manifested over the last year and a half. And so now I'm living here, and we're planning our life together. We just bought a house together.
So I don't know her, but I'm going to ask you, I'm going to assume that you were vibrating at this intention of finding someone that you could have a relationship with. And I'm going to assume that she was probably vibrating with that same intention.
Yes.
And so you weren't supposed to be there, but you ended up there, called synchronicity, serendipity, and now you're together. And that's the beauty of this process, this creation frequency. I don't know if you ever wrote an intention around finding a.
I did, and you helped me refine it. And and I think some of your words, which I think you have a real way with this, is you put it in the present tense, and you talked about how she felt to be around me, the things she said to me, and that was and those were just words to me at the time, but I've really seen them come true. And so I think a lot of that is really internalizing it, and the power of repetition, and playing it with on your app with the beats, and letting it sink into the subconscious, I think makes a big difference. So
that's the thing. And more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, when if you take the time and you record this in the app, okay, not only are you reprogramming your conscious mind and getting into the subconscious mind and telling that subconscious mind that takes in a million bits of information what to deliver to this conscious mind, okay, so you can stay focused, as Barbara said earlier, you stay focused into this way. But more importantly, while you're listening, that frequency is going out into the world. Now, they can measure our heart frequency going out at least 10 feet, but that's all the equipment can measure. If they have better equipment, it probably measures who knows how far it goes. Who knows how far these thoughts go. We've all had, it happened to me the other day. I'm thinking about this guy, and 3 minutes later, okay, he calls me. Now, we're not supposed to have a call. He just popped into my mind. So guess what? I probably popped into his mind, or I was on his to-do list to call me, and 3 minutes later, and we've all had that experience. And the more we get tuned into this vibrational frequency of who we really are here, we got to move from here to here and live from the heart and use this thing to deliver what this desires. And what does this desire? Love, peace, joy, communion, fellowship, relationship. And of course, there's nothing wrong with money, okay? But we don't obsess over it. It just flows to us. And if we don't have enough, we create an intention. So I can't emphasize enough that vibrational thought energy going out there. Okay, and I have to say one thing about Tom. He's done an enormous, when you were talking, I was going to, what is that phrase? He was self-will run riot, okay, prior to going on this path. That's why he was successful at work, but not successful at home, because he forced, that was important to him, and he willed it by sheer force. Well, that gets tiring, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And an easier way to do it, I say we just jump into the river of life and let it take us where it wants to take us, with the intention of where we want to go, and it will take us there instead of this. Okay, but he's done an enormous amount of things in the last 3 years that I've known him to get to this. So I congratulate you on this. So what about now, Tom? Is there anything in your life that that's not coming to you, or you want to?
Yeah, it was interesting. I pulled out your book off the bookshelf behind me, and I realized it's kind of a combination of the two areas of service and contribution, and personal and spiritual development. And so, kind of in those two areas, I find myself again retired, finding lots of opportunities to volunteer and serve others, and I know that I'm called to do it at a higher level. And some of this is what I wrote to you.
So let's do this. We're going to run out of time. So I'm going to jump back to Barbara, and while I'm there, I want you to think about in either service, contribution, or fellowship, or spirituality, what activity would you have to do tomorrow that it'd be hard to go to sleep thinking about it, and you jump out of the bed the moment your eyes open, because it fills you with juice, right? And so think of, while I'm talking to Barbara, think if there's one thing, man, whether it's going to work with the Boy Scouts, or going to work with old people home or whatever, coaching this or doing that, whatever it is, whatever would just float your boat, and then we'll come back. All right, Barb.
Okay.
So you have a little time to think about your body and health and all that. And any questions, any thoughts, anything?
Well, it's interesting because what Tom was talking about actually changed so much for what I'm thinking, because contribution, I mean, the health thing I think I can focus on actually, but I think contribution has been one of those things that and so I'm sorry to change gears, but it's one thing that I didn't do. I didn't record. I didn't write down because I don't know what that is. I'm the same way. I mean, I retired early. I am so fortunate that I have had that. And I also came from, a poor family, you didn't say that, but I came from a poor family. But I also know that as you're talking about, we're talking about this energy and intention too. For whatever reason, I never had a fear of money, and I think that's why it just came. It just was there. And so now, as far as the contribution part, is that one part that was missing, and so I need help as well to figure that out. To figure
Yeah,
out.
I would, first of all, on money. Money is called currency. I'm the same way. I've never had problems generating money. Money is currency because I attract it because I'm not afraid of not having it. Maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
and I always spend it like I have it, whether I have it or not. So money's always flowed to me, and it doesn't stay with me very long either because I like to spend it. So that's. But a lot of people are stuck in that area. That's the only reason I bring it up. But I will suggest to you, in those years, 3 years ago, you were contributing a hell of a lot, being a single mother without a father or husband who, one, you were divorced and then he passed. So now you're filling both roles. So you were contributing everything you had to that daughter. Okay. So congratulations, good job. And that will continue. Okay. Believe me, I have one that's 40. I mean, you've still going to be, okay.
You just turned 21.
But I would suggest to you the same thing I just said to Tom. Go back in time. What would really excite you and fulfill you, and whatever that looks like for you. And there's so many opportunities in today's world to give back, and there's so many people that need it. I don't know what your profession was, but you may be able to mentor young girls in that. You all obviously know how to parent somebody. There's a lot of kids that need help, a lot of mothers that need help parenting, a lot of single mothers that lost their husband through death or divorce. So there's roles you can play. And once again, ask questions. See, I think I talk about it in this book, but journaling, okay, every morning, okay.
I journal every day.
Yeah. So ask the question. So my journal starts like this: gratitude. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this, this, and this. Step 2, please give me wisdom. Wisdom on what I could do to help others. Wisdom on where I could contribute. Wisdom on what would really fulfill me in doing that. Okay. So ask questions. The answers will come. They must come. They have to come. If you just keep asking and asking and asking.
Right.
Good enough? All right.
Yeah, that's great.
Back to Tom. All right, Tom.
So what came to me was calling any one of the charities that I give money to and asking how I can spend time there feeding homeless this holiday season, specifically being in person, because giving money is the easy part for me, but my time is harder. So,
and I would suggest this too, because you're good with money. You know that world, and they don't teach that in high school. If you went down to the local high school and said, hey, you know what, I'd like to teach a course here, whether it's 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month, but I'd like to share with these kids how banking works, how money works. Okay. They don't teach you that. What they do when you turn 18, they give you a $500 visa. Okay. And every 18-year-old kid in America maxes it out at 24% interest. And that's how we learn about money after our credit's moved. So I'm just throwing that out as
a great thought.
just because I know, one, I raised 4 kids, I got 7 grandkids, and none of them know much about money except one. One of them got it, something. Okay, so it is, but it's a big need, especially in today's world. So, hey, listen, gosh darn, I hope you guys will come back on. I wish we had more time. I'm going to expand this to this. I'm going to get out of my truth-seeking business and soon a couple people because I feel like I don't have enough time. I know Tom took the course. Have you gotten the course yet, Barbara?
No, in
The
fact, is
online
that
course?
on your website?
Yeah, but I'm going to email it to you, okay? I'll email you a
Okay.
link. It was a gift from me to you for being on the show. Anything else I can ever do, feel free to email me. But just, I really appreciate this. I hope the audience does too. Tom, it's so good to see you. Barbara,
Yeah.
good to talk to you again. I'm
Thank you
glad
so
both of
much.
you guys are doing well. You're both in new homes and you both got money and life is
good.
good. So let's celebrate that, okay?
Life is good. Thank you,
Okay.
Mike. Thank you for your time.
All right, God
Thank
bless.
you.
Ladies
Appreciate
and
it.
gentlemen, we'll be back next Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, live with more guests to talk about the creation frequency. And if you'd like to be a guest, you can email me at mike@mikemurphyunfiltered.com, and we'd love to have you on. Until next week, go out there, live from your heart, and use your thoughts to create the life of your dreams. See you next week. Hey, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. See you guys. All right. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks
Take
again.
care.
All right. Bye-bye.